We are on the eve of the 2025 college football season. We have Big Ten football next weekend into next weekend. And there's been a lot of talk, even here, about Penn State and Oregon and Ohio State and their huge expectations. But my two sleeper teams that I'm keeping an eye on, the Huskies and the Huskers. That's right, Washington and Nebraska. I'll explain why. Lockdown Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, here's an idea. Hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. Plus, if you don't mind, share, follow, and like. That helps us out too. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. The Huskies and the Huskers are front and center today. Plus, we have a lot of news we got to mow through here. We got a hazing settlement at Northwestern. We got recruiting news. The SEC has finally manned up to a 9-game schedule to match the Big Ten. What does that mean for the playoffs? Plus, Urban Meyer wants Jim Harbaugh to get suspended in the NFL. And we have our pigskin picks. Let's get to it. Admittedly, all the talk around Penn State and Ohio State and Oregon has consumed a lot of the summer. We've done it here too. But they all have lofty expectations for 2025. And I think all of them are going to make the 2025 12-team playoff field. But I also think that the Big Ten is going to get 4 teams in, just like they did last year. So Indiana could make it back in again. Illinois could jump in. By the way, Indiana and Illinois play each other early on. It's going to be a pivotal game between those two. There's always the expectation for Lincoln Riley and USC to take that next step up and jump in. But what about that next group? That next tier, as we're looking at the standings, who's ready to make that big jump? Who could be the 2025 version of Indiana? Well, I'm here to tell you that my two sleeper teams that I'm watching this year in the Big Ten, and you should too, are the Washington Huskies and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And I think we'll have 2 breakout players to lead the way for both of these teams as well. DeMond Williams Jr., very high on him, the quarterback of the Washington Huskies. And, of course, DYLAN RAIOLA going into year 2 for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Both, I think, will be superstars. Let's start with Washington. I don't think Jedd Fisch gets enough credit for what he did last year, coming in for Washington, taking over a program. Kalen DeBoer got the team to a national championship runner-up status. They lost to Michigan the year before, and then 20 of the 22 starters were gone, many of them gone to the NFL. So Fisch had to come in there and replenish that. Really had to start from scratch. And I think he did a pretty good job to finish at 6-7. They were undefeated at home. That's something to build on. And I thought that was a pretty good start. They also had a 2-quarterback system last year, which as the season went on, I didn't like. There was Will Rogers, the veteran. He was the starter all year. And they brought in DeMond Williams Jr. in, his athleticism and all that for kind of change of pace and to help him get his feet wet. And as the season went on, I thought, as DeMond Williams got more and more snaps, every time I saw him, I started saying to myself, well, why is this guy not the starter? I think he should have been the starter. Yeah, he was a little raw around the edges, but, it was year 1 for Fisch, so why not start over? Let's get this kid up to speed and get him as much experience as possible. So, and he did get to start in the end at the Sun Bowl, and despite suffering a loss to Louisville, he completed 81% of his passes in the game for 374 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. He also rushed for 48 yards and scored another touchdown. It was a phenomenal game and just encapsulated what his ceiling is if he were to get, he gets to start every single week, if he's the guy, and he's going to be the guy this year. So I'm very excited for him to see what he can do. He's got steady weapons like Jonah Coleman coming back at running back, Denzel Boston coming back at wide receiver. I mean, the offense is ready to explode. It's there for him. So Washington opens up its season August 30th. They host Colorado State. Then they got a tough Big Ten opener. They're hosting the defending national champs, Ohio State. They're coming to Seattle. but they hosted the defending national champs the year before in Michigan. They came in there and the Huskies beat them. So maybe more of that on tap here this year. Again, Washington's very strong at home. Big time home field advantage there. So this year the Huskies have to travel to Michigan, by the way. They have Illinois and Oregon on the schedule. Both are at home. Those are going to be interesting games. Those might be, you got to keep an eye on those. So I say watch out for the breakout year for Damon Williams and the Washington Huskies. All right? We're on the record. Now, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. A lot of times when I hype up the Huskers, a lot of Husker fans write me and go, yeah, what's different about it this year? There's always hype. It never works out. Okay, fair, sort of, for the most part. But they're my other team to keep an eye on this year as Matt Rule enters year 3. But more excitingly, I think, the DANA RAIOLA, the quarterback, goes into year 2. He's got a full season under his belt. I think he's a superstar in the making. And I think they're going to be a handful for people this year. And they've got a whole offseason with offensive coordinator DANA HOLGORSEN now under their belt, ready to go. And HOLGORSEN is no stranger to explosive offenses. I think it's going to be a very exciting team to watch. This program has momentum. They had their first winning season since 2016 last year. They had their first bowl win in 9 years. That was a big check mark, checking the boxes. Matt Rule had to get there, kind of keep that momentum going, and he got there. They got it. So, and they won the bowl game. They beat Boston College 20-15. Pinstripe Bowl. They've improved things on offense. The offensive line is getting better. Improvement at wide receiver. So remember, they got Kentucky transfer Dane Key. I thought that was big. The offensive line getting better, more resources. They got Rocco Spindler transferring in from Notre Dame. He's got 40 games under his belt. So an experienced guy coming into that Husker offensive line, helping them out. They got some key additions on defense through the transfer portal to help keep teams in check. They just got to keep them in check. So let DYLAN RAIOLA on this offense fly. They open up with an interesting opponent. They got Cincinnati. It's at Arrowhead. The neutral site game at Arrowhead. Although I think that might feel like more of a home game for the Huskers, just regionally speaking, semi-close by. Their Big Ten opener will be at home against Michigan. Michigan will be without head coach Sherrone Moore for that game. That's one of the games he'll be serving the self-imposed 2-game suspension for Spygate. The middle part of the schedule looks pretty good, pretty manageable for the Huskers. 3 of their last 4, so they're going to make their money on this season. Their opponents are USC, Penn State, and Iowa. Those are 3 of the last 4. So, and USC and Iowa, those games are at home. And the USC game, that's November 1st, I believe. That's going to be the blackout game, the all-black jerseys and helmets and uniforms from Nebraska. The crowd's going to be all black. Going to be a night game. Going to be great. Going to be a great atmosphere. So I'm excited about this season, and that's one of those pivotal games to make or break the whole season. So the Huskies and the Huskers, Williams and Raiola. Let's get ready. We're here. We're ready to go. Keep an eye on these teams. These are the teams that are going to try and get in that upper tier in the Big Ten. They got a pretty good chance. Either of them or both of them. Have the break through that barrier into the Big Ten's elite teams and maybe join the party and maybe crack that 12-team playoff field. Who knows? I think the Big Ten's getting 4 teams in. Can they be one of those 4? Comments, please. Hit me up there on YouTube. Be sure to hit that free subscribe button down below, and you'll never miss an episode. Plus, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten because that helps us out. Thank you. Don't forget, we have a website, talkbig10.com. That's with the number 10, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there, and there are links there for you to buy your favorite Big Ten school merchandise. Get a Nebraska shirt, get a Washington pennant, hat, all right there at talkbig10.com. All right. We have a lot to do. This is going to be a big podcast. I'm going to try and keep all this on time. So we have scheduling news with the SEC. They're going to pick up a 9th conference game next year. What does this mean for the Big Ten and then for the college football playoffs? We have a settlement with Pat Fitzgerald and Northwestern with the hazing. That's been going on for 2 years. Recruiting news. Urban Meyer says Roger Goodell should honor the NCAA and suspend Jim Harbaugh. It just keeps continuing. And then we'll have our first edition of Pigskin Picks for the season going into the weekend. We've got games. So we're very excited about that. We'll look at the early Big Ten games in the middle of the week next week as well. All that's coming up right here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel has a special day coming up, August 26th. It is officially FanDuel Futures Day. Futures bets. Make your predictions right now. It's a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. Put them down on the record. For 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you want to call your shot for the MVP, you want to say who's going to win the Super Bowl, who's going to win the divisions, all right there. August 26th, special deals. So I'm going to take a flyer on an MVP. Who do you think it's going to be? Patrick Mahomes again, maybe? Who's going to win the Super Bowl? The Bills? Lions? Eagles? Go ahead, make your mark right now. I have told you that Defensive Player of the Year and Comeback Player of the Year, Aiden Hutchinson, parlay those together for your future. See what happens. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game August 26th. FanDuel Futures Day. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Thank you. Hit that free subscribe button and check out our website, talkbig10.com, full of podcasts and merchandise. All right, let's get to it. I got a long list of stuff we got to cover here. First of all, the College Football Selection Committee is going to tweak its metrics that it uses to enhance the importance of strength of schedule. Strength of schedule is going to be a big deal, or a bigger deal. You know, last year, it seemed like the selection committee, they favored spotless records in favor of strength of schedule. A lot of people were upset that there were some good 3-loss teams that had tougher schedules, didn't get in. And a lot of people were pointing the finger to Indiana. 11-1, but didn't really play anybody in the non-conference. Had their big game at Ohio State, and they lost it. So they were ground zero for this. Kurt Cignetti and the Hoosiers at 11-1. So since then, by the way, Indiana capitalizing on the old formula, getting rid of all Power 4 non-conference games. So I don't know what, and for the next 5 years, it's going to be interesting to see if this was a mistake or if this was smart. We'll find out. What it does, either way, it leaves Indiana very little room for error. Can't have very many losses, 1 or 2, and that's it. Meanwhile, that news, coupled with the fact that the SEC is finally going to add a 9th conference game to its schedule. The SEC only plays 8 conference games. The Big Ten, they play 9. So they're Tony Petitti's been talking about this. Look, if we're going to compare conferences and bid for playoff spots, we got to at least be playing the same amount of conference games in both conferences. So the SEC is going to do that. They're going to, in 2026, they're going to add a 9th game. And I think that could mean that be the first piece of groundwork being laid on some sort of agreement for a Big Ten and SEC meeting to come together and actually put on paper the future college football playoff format. So stay tuned. I think that's the next step here. Now that we're both playing the same amount of games on both sides of the ledger, we could talk about automatic qualifiers or not, the 5+11, the 4-4-2, 2-3-1 format. It won't be the Big Ten 2018 format. That's nonsense. That'll never get off the ground. Northwestern and their former football coach, Jim Fitzgerald, they settled their lawsuit. This is one of the big, when we took over Locked On Big Ten 2 summers ago, this was like the big story right there. All the hazing going on in the Northwestern football program. Fitzgerald, who was an alum and a very successful, most successful coach in school history, got fired because of it. So he said that was a wrongful termination. He didn't know what the hazing stuff was going on, he said. And so he sued the school for $130 million, remainder of his salary for wrongful termination and future earnings. He's been out of coaching for a couple of years. So we don't know what the settlement was for. I read some quotes by him, though. He seemed pretty pleased. I think he got a check. I don't know for how much. He coached there for 17 seasons, had 110 on 101 record at Northwestern. David Braun, by the way, who had just become an assistant at that program, was thrust into the limelight as the head coach when Fitzgerald was fired, and Braun became the coach weeks before the season started. They ended up winning 8 games, including a bowl game, and he ended up being Big Ten Coach of the Year, getting ready to go into year 3 for him. All right, some Purdue news. First-year head coach Barry Odom announced that his starting quarterback will be Ryan Brown, as we thought it would be. There have been like 4 guys fighting for this position. Ryan Brown is an interesting story. He's a redshirt sophomore. He started 2 games. He was a backup. He started 2 games last year when Hudson Card got hurt. After the season, he transferred because Ryan Walters got fired. It was a mess at Purdue. He left. He went to North Carolina with Bill Belichick and was there for spring ball. But after spring ball, either he or Belichick or both decided, this ain't working out. And so he came back to Purdue. Says, all right, I'll go fight for the QB1 job, the starting quarterback job at Purdue. He's athletic. He's 6'4". He's 210 pounds. Garnered a lot of attention. I remember talking about this at length on this podcast. Had one of his 2 games he came in. He started against Illinois. Pretty good Illinois team last year. And he jumped in there and he threw for 297 yards and 3 touchdowns and rushed for 118 more yards. This was his first ever collegiate start. Welcome to college football. Pretty good. Purdue ended up losing that game in overtime, 50-49 in a shootout, but the quarterback play was outstanding for the Boilermakers. So he's back. He wins the job. I think we're looking forward to seeing what he can do on a consistent basis as the Boilermakers open up the season August 30th against Ball State. Earlier this week, we talked about how the Michigan Wolverines landed their prize 5-star running back commit, Savion Hyder from Virginia. And it was reportedly a 2-team name, image, and likeness bidding war between Michigan and Tennessee. But then again, maybe it wasn't. Maybe not at all. Because he just said publicly, he goes, I think it was always Michigan all along. Michigan had this in the bag all along. I don't know. He said Michigan is the place to be. He says it's the best place in the world. And it sounds to me like Tennessee never really had a shot here, huh? All right. By the way, in case you missed it, former Ohio State coach and Fox football analyst Urban Meyer thinks that the NFL should suspend Jim Harbaugh, now the head coach of the Chargers, after the NCAA hit him with an additional 10-year show cause penalty for Spygate when he was at Michigan. Harbaugh, of course, parachuted out of there. NFL is never going to coach again in college football, so he's not worried about it. Urban noted back in the day when Jim Tressel got fired at Ohio State, he had a suspension there as well and tried to take a job. This was Tattoo-gate and all that other stuff. Took a consultant job with the Colts in the NFL, but they honored a 6-game suspension. He had to be suspended for 6 games in the NFL before he could start working for the Colts. So anybody think that Commissioner Roger Goodell is going to suspend Jim Harbaugh in honor of the spirit of the penalty by the NCAA? No way. No way. Not happening. I don't know what Urban's talking about. It's not. I don't think Urban believes it will happen. So anyway, hey, the USC Trojans, let's talk about them for a minute. They've received a lot of praise for the recruiting. The class of 2026, among the best in the country. 2027 is off to a start, and so is 2028. Now they're focusing on 4-star defensive lineman Marcus Fakatow, one of the best players in the state. And he's already gotten many suitors. Ohio State and Notre Dame are in on him as well as USC. So we'll see. That's way down the road. One that's more imminent is today, Friday. Kid we've talked about a lot with you. 5-star offensive lineman Darius Gray going to commit today. He's from Richmond, Virginia, 6'3", 295 pounds, one of the best players in the country. Now, he's projected to go to South Carolina. LSU thinks they have a chance. Ohio State's been on this kid for a long time. This will be disappointing for Ohio State if they don't get him. But the word is he's leaning South Carolina Gamecocks. That's decisions today. And finally, you Penn State fans, y'all remember Bo Pribula, the backup quarterback, who's a very good backup, could start on most teams, I think. Backup Drew Aller for years, and then when Drew Aller announced that he was coming back for another season this season, Pribula decided, well, I need to go transfer and play somewhere else with my last year of eligibility where I can get some playing time. And it was a very tough decision to make because he left as soon as the Nittany Lions regular season was over. He had to land somewhere, which means he could no longer be on Penn State's team, and he had to miss the whole playoff run. So he landed at Missouri, if you do remember. He's battling Sam Horn for the starting quarterback job. Missouri coach Eli Drinkwitz. He says he's going to use both quarterbacks in their season opener against Central Arkansas. He wants to see them now. They've seen them in practice and scrimmaging. He wants to see both in game situations. So they're both going to play. And Drinkwitz wants to see that before he names a starter for the rest of the season. So that's just an update on Bo Pribula. I know a lot of you are very familiar with him. Those of you that may not be familiar with this podcast, if you're checking out for the first time, thank you. Hit that subscribe button. We always close out with cool features. This is another one of the things that make us the most unique podcast in America. Nobody else does this. We always have a special feature at the end of our program. Mondays, we do our top 10 Big Ten observations. Tuesdays are Tuesday tweets. Wednesdays, we power rank stuff. Thursdays, our Big Ten classics. And Fridays, our Pigskin Picks. Now, we haven't had any games to pick because it's been the off season. That's about to change. So we've been doing futures, odds, and all that kind of stuff throughout the summer. Heisman watch, odds for this or that. We actually have games. We have. We're going to take a look, even though it's not Big Ten, we're going to take a look at Farmageddon coming up here on Saturday, tomorrow. But also, we have Big Ten games in the week, next week, before our next Pigskin Pick segment next Friday, going into the first full-blown weekend with Texas and Ohio State and all that. So we'll have our Pigskin Picks, actual odds, actual games next here on Locked On Big Ten. Rugiet. Yeah, guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, maybe even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is the next generation prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and blood flow and all that kind of stuff that you need. And, you know, unlike the usual pills that can take hours to work, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average 15 minutes. The effects can last up to 36 hours. So check that out. 150,000 men have already tried this. So Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. Getting great customer reviews. Head over to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege and get 15% off today. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. Let's take a look at our weekly feature here. And we're going to have our Pigskin Picks for the weekend here, and we'll put them on the screen if you're audio only. There. We'll start off with Farmageddon, Iowa State and Kansas State. That game, of course, will be in Dublin, Ireland, and in front of a nationally worldwide television audience. And, of course, Iowa State with ever steady Matt Campbell as their head coach. Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson is the kid you want to watch here. Kansas State is a 3-point favorite, and the over-under at 51.5. I like Kansas State to cover, and I like a high-scoring game in this one. I like the over 51.5. Now, let's move forward to next Thursday. All right, 6 days from now. We got Big Ten teams in action. We got Ohio at Rutgers. Rutgers is a 14.5-point favorite, and the number's 46. Rutgers will win. I don't know if they'll cover the 14.5. That hook, I could see like a 10, 11, 12 point. I would take I take Ohio on the numbers, Rutgers to win, and I like the under. Rutgers likes to run the ball, even though they have Ethan Kaliak-Manis that could throw. I like the under 46.5 in this one. Buffalo is at Minnesota. Minnesota, 16.5-point favorite. I think they win. I think they cover. I'm excited and intrigued by Minnesota this year. By the way, the over-under 44.5. You know, with that, I think Minnesota's defense is pretty good with Coy Parrish. Let's take the under 44.5. Parrish is going to play three ways. Going to play safety as usual. Got like a half a dozen interceptions last year. He's going to play wide receiver, and he's going to return kicks. And Darius Taylor, one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. So they run the ball, they play defense. That's why I like the under 44.5 here. My big question mark is Drake Lindsey, their redshirt freshman quarterback. I don't know. Nobody's seen him play. That's a big question mark. So we'll have to scout this one out on Thursday. Also Thursday, Nebraska is taking on Cincinnati. That's the neutral site game at Arrowhead. Cincinnati is actually favored in that game. I like Nebraska. I think Nebraska in this one. Matt Rule, DYLAN RAIOLA, year 2. We talked about DANA HOLGORSEN. I'm ready to go. Scott Satterfield going into year 3 as the head coach at Cincinnati. Miami taking on Wisconsin. The Badgers, 17.5-point favorites at home, over under 39.5. Badgers got to get their offense going. That's a low number, 39.5. I mean, even if Wisconsin is struggling, got to take the over on that. And I think they cover 17.5. Grounded pound. All right. And then on Friday, Western Michigan at Michigan State. Michigan State loves opening on Friday nights. That's what they do. 19.5-point favorites. Can Aiden Childs and company open it up in the second half and cover that number by 3 touchdowns? I think so. I think that they nose over the over at 49.5 as well. And Western Illinois. And don't forget Nick Marsh, got the wide receiver there at Michigan State. Western Illinois at Illinois. Big year for Brett Bielema. Luke Altmaier, ranked 12th in the country. 46.5 the blowout. And not only the blowout, but look at the number. 63.5. Vegas thinks this is going to be an offensive explosion. Let me get on that bandwagon and take the over. How about that? All right, that's it. Just like that, our first pigskin picks of the season. The season's here. We have football now every weekend until February. College football and NFL football. Congratulations. We made it through the summer. We're there. Football season is upon us. And we're going to be all over it. We're here every day. We talk all 18 Big Ten teams. We're audio and video, whatever you like on your podcast. We have news. We have analysis of that news. We have opinions on that news and analysis. This is the most unique Big Ten podcast in the country. We're here every day. Tell your friends about us. If you're a Big Ten fan, you're watching because you're probably a Big Ten fan. I know that you know another Big Ten fan that probably doesn't know we're out here every day. Word of mouth is great. Let them know we're out here. We would really appreciate it. Share, follow, and like. Hit that little share arrow. Send us over to somebody that maybe doesn't know that we're here each and every day right after you subscribe. All right. Thanks. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter or X at TalkBig10. Don't forget our website, TalkBig10.com. Feel free to check out a second listen from yesterday's episode. I said we're every day. Maybe you missed yesterday's. We were here. Where were you? Also invite you for a second listen for our friend Brian Smith and the Portal Show on part of the Locked On Network as well. All things transfer portal. There are still kids looking for homes that bounced in the transfer portal in the spring. He's all over it right there. All right, that'll do it. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Farmageddon if you want to watch some college football. Big Ten football next week. We're all over it right here. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. Thanks for checking us out. We'll see you next time.